I like Gorilla Tag. It's totally fine if you don't. I understand that a game like this isn't for everyone. Literally, isn't for everyone. This thing is VR exclusive, and those things aren't cheap. But you all know what Gorilla Tag is, right? It's basically just a locomotive VR game where your movement is based on you swinging your arms against terrain to launch yourself. A game with good movement can be one of my favorites of all time, and Gorilla Tag absolutely nails how it goes about its movement. It's extremely exciting, it has a huge replayability factor to it because of how addicting it is, and yeah, it's just super fun to try to get better at this game's insanely high skill ceiling with its movement. People don't love Gorilla Tag because of the young audience, to say the least, and it is a live service game at the end of the day. Some people don't love those, but I just think Gorilla Tag is a very fun time, all things considered. I'm actually working on a pretty long video ranking all the maps that you might have to keep your eyes out for, but that's kind of the problem for me. What qualifies as a map has become so incredibly confusing recently because this game has way too many updates. Now, on paper, that sounds awesome. Your biggest problem with the video game is that it got too many updates? You have it easy, man. But the thing isn't that it added too many new maps in the same vein as, say, mountains or forest. I more so have my issues with the more gimmicky Gorilla Tag maps that almost forget that Gorilla Tag is a parkour game. And it all started with the funny haha dungeon updates. So let's start there, shall we? March 24th, 2023, a pre-Mario movie world, ladies and gentlemen. The basement update for Gorilla Tag released. It played around shrinking the player down into a small maze with these freaky goobers, and basically just had to escape pretty much. It was fun. It wasn't amazing, but I liked it. There were a couple fun Easter eggs if you were willing to search hard enough, or just, you know, look it up on the internet. The cosmetics were pretty cool, and overall it was just a solid update. I didn't necessarily mind that I wasn't very parkour or, you know, tag focused, because it was something new and fresh and funky to toy around with. The problems only really started when this became the blueprint for way too many updates moving forward, and many of them weren't nearly as decent as this one. Wow, you can build yourself a shitty obstacle course and then shrink down to play on it. Gun to your head, name me one time you played this after it released. The answer is never, because again, this is a kind of platforming game. You're not gonna keep coming back to the game for building, you're gonna keep coming back to the game for parkour. And tag, the game called Gorilla Tag typically has me coming back to play more tag. Did you know that? Crazy. Later down the line, there was a rotating map that completely sucks. These are super rudimentary levels that really don't have much going for them. In fact, I'm not even sure if I'll get footage for any of these, because no one played them. All it does is just continue to bloat out the game, which doesn't do any good. In fact, it actually harms the game heavily. I probably wouldn't be making this video if it didn't. Because new content, if good, simply gives players more options. Good word of mouth will keep new players coming to the game, and you can always come back to the good old forest or canyons or mountains if you're weird. Good content does nothing but improve the longevity of a game. I feel like this is pretty common knowledge to most people. And you might think that bad content, while bad, has the same benefit of good content, which is you can always come back to the old content you love. But bad content is missing something crucial from good content, and that is word of mouth. When a great update arrives, the community skyrockets on socials and draws attention back to the game. Some old players came back to the game with newfound interest, as well as new players finally deciding to try it out. Thus, while yes, new content will technically split the player base, because of the popularity of the new mechanics of whatever update, think the beach map is a good example, new players were coming in and kept the player base balanced, as all things should be. This is what a good update does to the game. Compare this to the funny haha building map. Now, I'm not so sure about you, but I was very disconnected from this game when it originally released, but still kept decent tabs of the fanbase through social media. And I heard absolutely nothing about this. Like, genuinely nothing. Radio silence. Thus, I didn't come back to the game for another long while. The word of mouth was not there. With no players new or returning to fill in the gaps of the split player base, now lobbies will just be smaller. So while yes, you could argue that I can just go back to the old maps, the new content is still making my experience with these old maps less fun. And when it comes to old maps, there is a completely different issue we need to talk about. Map reworks. Oh boy. These started off pretty harmless with canyons, because it isn't really a full rework, it just adds stuff to the map, like ropes and zip lines. You can still play canyons the way God intended, which is essentially seamlessly shifting between layers of the canyon, but you can also utilize the new mechanics of ropes into your routes and it overall improves the map. It's a great rework. The mountains rework followed a very similar philosophy. They just added that big ass fan in the middle of the map, which not only didn't intrude on the old mountains, but also fixed the biggest issue with mountains. These two were great reworks. But then we have the others. The Clouds rework, while very fun and I think is much better than old Clouds because of just how unique this new version is, does not play like old Clouds. If you play new Clouds like the old one, you are just gonna get shit on. You have to use these gliders if you want any shot, especially as a tagger monkey. And while this makes for a more compelling map in my opinion, it makes for a bad rework that retains nothing of original Clouds besides aesthetic. And this gets even worse with the Caves rework. Caves used to be one of my favorite maps. It actually had one of the most versatile layouts in the entire game. Two completely different maps with an intertwining theme. A large open map for one-on-one chases and a smaller linear map at the bottom for when you break off chase. This used to be one of the best designed maps in the entire game with so many different mini games, ideas, and different modes you could play with. And the rework completely annihilated what I enjoyed about it. I hate new caves. I think it's an extremely poorly thought out map because while it seems to be the same, the verticality of the open area makes it much less engaging and more repetitive for one-on-one chases. And the new mine section is much smaller, and while it does have more set pieces like this piano thing here, it has an overall much weaker sense of danger as that old one. I now ask the question, what was wrong with just adding new hazards and mechanics to the old maps? Because now, those people who don't like the new reworks, whether it's the new clouds or the new caves, unlike every other update in this game, they can't just go back to the map they liked. What is the point in just removing options for the player? So in conclusion, Gorilla Tag's update system is very flawed, and removes options for the player for practically no reason. Now not all updates are bad, they added a ranked force mode and I really enjoy that, some of the new regular maps are fun like the city, and at the end of the day, Gorilla Tag is still a fun game. I still quite enjoy it. Getting footage for this video will probably be a lot of fun. Its movement is still great, it still has a fun vibe to it all, I still like the game. But that does not lessen the blow of the fact that the game's updates are poorly thought out, and in my opinion, makes the game a less fun experience.